Привет из Москвы! С вами передача «Голубь мира», где разбираем крутые навыки, спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about thinking and let's start with the definition.
There is a definition which I like a lot. The man is alive when it has ability to create, to be creative. The same I would say with thinking. If I am able to think, to create new thoughts, new ideas, I am alive. So this is the most advanced feature of our mankind or our civilization, because we could create such beautiful things like Sydney Opera, or maybe Eiffel Tower, or so complicated bridges which were built just recently in China with new with renovation of world record of longitude and height and weightability. So thinking is the way when we take our chances to collect facts, to accept hypotheses, and then to make some models to check if those thinking are correct.
And probably sometimes when we face certain problems, we may need like a different tool or maybe the different way of thinking. So what might be the options for us to consider or be aware of in terms of when it comes to mode of thinking and then maybe like executing based of what we thought of?
You know, you should be like a fisherman. When you are young, you take just a small bunch from the tree, then you put some rope and this hook, and you try to fish a very small pike or some other kind of fish. And when you will suddenly catch something very heavy, you will ask for help, and somebody will come and help you to pull this big fish out of the river, of the ocean, or from the sea. But if you are already adult, you couldn't scream every time for help when you are sitting in the office or you have a remote work. So you should always understand that if you are grown up, you should rely just on yourself. And if you have something very heavy to think, something very hard, something very complicated, this is not just end sign. This is sign to think twice, to use different methods of thinking. And there are a lot of different methods, like a brainstorm when you have friends, or maybe rice storm when you have some people who know the same thing as you and already deep in the problem. There is also trees. There's kind of Russian art of invention for technical employees and engineers, and a lot of other. But anyway, if you are, for example, troubleshooter, you know that you are the last one, so nobody behind you, and you should meet this problem, meet this task as a last standing man, and you couldn't go back. You should develop, you should divide, you should synthesize.
And when you mentioned the last 10 men concept, obviously it might be observed from the way that like we need to have like a different dimensions, different depth, or maybe for that we also need to be able to look from a different angle to the problem. So what is the best way to train this, or at least like know about the areas that might be improved so that the thinking will be deep and efficient enough?
The best way definitely is to go to school of troubleshooters and spend there from 3 to 5 years, but not many men and girls has the time and money for it. But anyway, for example, you could listen and watch our videos, which are already created with Maxim Golub, like 400 in full. So it's quite big array of different kind of knowledge. And maybe if you will listen all of them, you will be developing some new features in your brain. When we'll dive deeply in our mind, we will find that there are a lot of synapses, small cells which are connected each with other. And if you have ability to think about something, about math, about chemistry, about biology, about machinery, those connections will be more powerful and working faster. So if you have habit to think about some mechanism, about some models, methods, approaches, in this case, you will have a very fast mind, and maybe you will create a hypothesis in, I don't know, like 2 to 3 times per minute. But if you are used to listen to others and you not often do your brain work, in this case you should spend much more time. But in any case, you could create any result from your brain. If you used to this, you could make it faster. If you are not used, you should go to have a walk. It's very easy and a lazy way how to make thoughts.
And you also mentioned other people. So obviously, sometimes we may want to understand how someone else makes decision, or like what exactly motivates and moves them. Hence, we need to understand like what is the behind the hood, like how they think about certain stuff. So what might be the approaches or like markers or indicators in order to understand or at least get an idea of someone else thinking, so that we could make use of it as well?
There are several layers of this cake. On first layer, you just laying on the ground and you couldn't make your own thoughts, but you happily accept this from other people, and you think, okay, now I have a way to go, and now I have methods to use. On the second layer, sometimes you will be given task without way how to do this, and you should develop not the task by itself, but the way how to approach and to complete this. On the third level, you should create task for other people, and you know this not an easy way. For example, you have like 10 employees, so maybe twice per week you will give them a new task, and you will be doing this easy after, I don't know, maybe 1 month. If you have like 100 subsidiaries, is the right word? Subordinates. Yes, sorry, subordinates. You will be spending some unsleepy nights to give them tasks. If you will not give them work to do, they will just drink coffee and they will walk into the office, and they will make your nerves going like strings of the guitar. But if you have, for example, like 1,000 subordinates, it's a really hard way. And if you will be jumping in your career like a rocket, in this case, you on the every level will be not able to give tasks to everyone, and you will have like a lot of spare hands. Not really spare, but they have nothing to do because you have lack of your mental abilities.
And when it comes to probably helping yourself to make better decisions, which probably comes through like a deep thinking, or maybe like even finding time to thinking, what might be the best method to do this? Like, for example, some people just might be walking, or some people may be thinking that we just need a space, or this is actually something that I also asked before, like they trying to say no to things that would prevent thinking, such as music, or, you know, like maybe speaking or thinking of some sort of like a fast food-ish items. So what is the way to make sure that, you know, like you spend enough time on thinking and this thinking is a good quality?
First, you should think that you are icebreaker. There is a huge ships which are goes close to North Pole, and they are breaking the ice with things of 3 to 5 meters. Is it okay to say things? Толщина.
Yes. Thickness.
Thickness. So a lot of ships, they would approach the iceberg and they would stand still and wait for such a ship. And the same in the real life. If you are a boss, if you are a manager, maybe some people will wait until you will make decision, and you are able to be this icebreaker or mind breaker, or you will also rely on somebody else. And in this case, you should understand that if you will start from the thickness, I don't know, like 10 centimeters, and they will go thicker and thicker, you will be trained to create decisions, to create hypotheses, to make some suggestions. But if you are if you want just to rely on somebody else, you will not even try. So without attempts, you couldn't develop yourself.
And when it comes to interacting of people who have like a quite opposite thinking, and we know more or less for sure that like the way they process things is different, how we should approach to this? Like, should we just like adapt, or should we just try to make them to change their way of thinking? And if we want to achieve the results, whether it's together or not, what should be our the best way of performing?
Maybe I will ask you for help, but several things I need to translate. First, I was conducting a lecture in the Kazakhstan, in Astana, in the President Palace, and suddenly I was asked by one man. He was official from the Kazakhstan side, and he asked me, is it okay to use some kind of module or formulas or units to solve this state task? And I told him, I am not sure, but maybe we could use such kind of the way. Suddenly he replied, I am not agree with you, but I am ready to die to your freedom to заблуждаться.
Concerned,
To be
confused.
concerned. And I was so proud of this man. And second, I was reading a book from Bertrand Russell, and suddenly I found statement which was completely stopped me. And at this day, I couldn't read anymore. This last statement I read was something like, I couldn't stand my life for my beliefs because maybe I am wrong. The same with thinking. If you think that you have strong belief in your idea, this do not mean that you are right. Sometimes people make terrible mistakes because they sure what to do. For example, let's remind Hitler or some other devil persons which lead our world to the crash.
Well, then my last question will be how knowing about thinking could actually help someone to not to lead the world to the crash.
At this point, I will say that women like men which can think. If you could invent something unusual, you could create new events, you could build new future, and you could be like a wizard. There is a Russian saying that never look for a fairy tale, but look for a wizard. First, will just make you promises, but second, will make your dreams come true.
Будьте волшебником, а мы рассмотрели навык мышления и чем он полезен именно вам. Всем мира!